Good afternoon and good morning. A warm welcome to the ICLEI World Congress virtual high-level session following the circular development pathway towards sustainable cities. My name is Burcu Tunçer. I'm the head of circular development and the global coordinator for the circular development pathway of ICLEI. It's my great pleasure to be your host today. The circular development pathway is one of the 5 ICLEI pathways interlinked with the low carbon, resilient, equitable, and people-centered development pathways. But why is circularity so important? Well, as also mentioned yesterday's World Congress morning session, circular economy actions provide great opportunities to reach local strategic goals such as climate neutrality, regeneration of the urban natural environment, and creation of livelihood opportunities. Let's take, for example, the challenge of climate neutrality. Today, we collectively emit around 50 billion tons of CO2 equivalent each year. That's actually 1 ton being one household's trash for 1 year. And that is 15 billion years of your trash. What a waste. While our current decarbonization efforts are very crucial to tackle those carbon emissions, they do not sufficiently address emissions deeply embedded in the materials and products flowing through the economy. So switching to renewable energy can only cut the emissions by 55%, and we should look into the other additional ways. We can urgently start addressing the remaining 45% embedded in our homes, cars, clothes, the food we eat, and other products that we produce, use, and discard every day. So transforming the way we produce and consume in the urban environment can drastically contribute to emission reduction. That's why circularity. In our cities, we need to design out waste, avoid pollution, and keep materials in use as long as possible. So it's clear for us that the transitions are needed not only in local governments' own public services, but also in the industry, businesses, and communities in our urban spaces. So dear participants, our network clearly sees circular development as a powerful means, in other words, a pathway to reach sustainable development goals, like climate neutrality, biodiversity at the local level. Today, in this virtual high-level session, we will hear from distinguished representatives of the leading ICLEI local and regional governments from actually 5 world regions that dare to take this circular development pathway. And what is our agenda? Here you see. We will first start with opening remarks on how circular development connects to broad circularity sustainability goals. Then we will hear from leading ICLEI local and regional governments from those regions. They will talk about their efforts and explain the opportunities and challenges they see for localizing the circular economy. We will also from one of our close partners on the current and future collaboration. And finally, I will present the ICLEI global approach for the circular development pathway. Let me tell you, at the end of the session, we will take 1 or 2 questions from the audience and have Mayor Arve and Council Member King from Maui, who is already online, who has joined us kindly, addressing them live. So please post your questions in the chat box, and my colleagues, Mayon Genar and Inchi Deng, they will be carefully collecting them. And please kindly note that this session will be going a little bit over an hour. And some housekeeping rules. This session, as you can see, is recorded, and I would like to let you know that it will be available later on the ICLEI World Congress website, as you see in the link, worldcongress.iclei.org. Well, for Spanish speakers, tenemos también una traducción en español. So please click on the little global icon just at the bottom of your control panel and select your preferred language channel. And yes, once again, please engage. Feel free to add your questions in the Q&A box. And watch out for those links that are additional information to the speeches of our valuable speakers. Now, let's start. I would like to give the floor to our close partner, UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, to deliver us their opening remarks. We have our close colleague, Martina Otto, who is the head of cities unit and also the head of Secretariat Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction, Global ABC at UNEP. Thank you for joining us. And Martina, the word is yours, please.
I would like to thank ICLEI for the kind invitation to open the conversation around circular development. UNEP and ICLEI have a long-standing partnership, not least in the area of circular economy in cities, looking at the cross-section of Sustainable Development Goal 11 on sustainable cities and SDG 12 on sustainable consumption and production, and highlighting the important contributions of local actors to sustainable development and to meeting national commitments under this global agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing three planetary crises: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, driven by current unsustainable production and consumption patterns. Cities are already responsible for over 70% of resource use and greenhouse gas emissions, and business as usual in light of the population growth and the growing urbanization means that we're set for an increase, further undermining the planet's health and with it, our own. Circularity is a way to reduce the resource and climate footprints of our economies, moving away from our present linear take-make-waste economic models. And despite the efforts to recycle and reuse, over 90% of the raw materials used globally are not circled back into the economy yet. Over 50% of global waste is generated and by consequence has to be managed in cities, not only wasting natural resources, but also draining local government budgets. On the contrary, cities can drive the shift towards circularity. They have direct control over policies that can redirect critical resource-intense sectors, such as buildings and transport. They can influence industrial development. Cities can use public procurement as a lever, and they can work closely with their surrounding regions to manage resources that cut across administrative boundaries by supporting upstream preventative actions rather than the cleanup. The present COVID-19 pandemic is a sad reminder of vulnerabilities, inequalities, and the importance of making peace with nature. In our efforts to recover our economies and build resilience, we need to build back better, following a circular development pathway. Research by the McKinsey Center for Business and Environment showed that a fully circular economy would cut down our resource use by as much as 28%. The International Resource Panel, in its report on resource efficiency and climate change, pointed to material efficiency strategies in housing that could reduce GHG emissions in the material cycle of residential buildings by 80 to 100% in 2050 in G7 countries, and reductions in China in the order of 80 to 100% and 50 to 70% in India in 2050. There is already circularity evidence building up from sector to cross-sector circularity and cities facilitating innovation. For example, a consortium of architects in Australia is designing a 49-story superstructure that, instead of demolishing the existing building on site, will reuse 98% of the bearing structure and upcycle 2/3 of the materials, and thereby saving CO2 equivalent of 10,000 flights between Sydney and Melbourne. The London Waste and Recycling Board published a roadmap to accelerate the circular economy in London. Numerous cities are spurring sharing and repairing economies, bike-sharing programs, for example, or setting aside real estate for repair shops that also help build communities. Or they're initiating entire living laboratories to test new concepts in regeneration districts and new business models by renting rather than purchasing goods through public procurement. I need to mention as well that we've witnessed the importance of data as the backbone for decision-making in our work with cities on urban metabolism, and that has evolved to circular jobs. And UNEP and ICLEI are actually now working jointly to accelerate the development of circular economy jobs in Bogor in Indonesia through the identification of critical sectors and development of capacity building efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that cities cannot do the job alone. Collaboration across all levels of governance and with private sector and communities is critical to scale up and put our cities on the circular development pathway. And here I'd like to mention, for example, the Brussels Be Circular program, which spans across 15 governmental administrative departments and over 60 stakeholder organizations from public and private and academic sectors. And such cross-ministerial and multi-stakeholder governance can naturally be more time-consuming to reach consensus. But in the end, engagement pays off as it leads to more consistent policy implementation and enhanced resilience of projects that are initiated across political cycles. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, the science is there, the stakes are well known, it is urgent to act together and to act now, and I look forward to the session which allows for sharing of experiences, learning from another, and how challenges can be overcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Soto, Martina, for explaining so well. As you said, the science is there, the urgency is there, we need to act now. You mentioned especially built environment area, and there is a lot of potential for recovery and reuse strategies. I'd like to also make a link to our European Secretariat there, as our colleagues work with European member cities in exactly demonstrating those potentials. So you can read about the city loop projects in the chat box. Well, let's go to our next speaker. I would like to give the floor to another close partner organization, and they have a leading role, of course, in the transition to circular economy, inspiring us with their research and also global events. So please, it's my pleasure to welcome Marie Pansar, Director of Sustainability Solutions at Citra. Ms. Pansar, over to you.
We all know that our planet, our only home, is encountering a global ecological sustainability crisis, which actually has 3 dimensions: climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and depletion of natural resources. And this crisis has been caused only by us, humans. However, the ecological sustainability crisis has not been caused because we are indifferent or evil. No, the root cause is our linear economic system, which is dependent on fossil fuel-based energy production and overuse of natural resources. The linear economy has served us well for a long time, but now its negative impacts have increased to become bigger than the benefits, and therefore we must urgently transform our economies to become circular. And here the cities are on the driver's seat. So cities are engines of global economy, and city networks, especially ICLEI, are doing very valuable work. Cities are also aggregators of materials and nutrients, accounting for 75% of natural resource consumption, 50% of global waste production, and 60 to 80% of greenhouse gas emissions. And I often say that the future of the world is defined based on the decisions that are made in the cities. The majority of world's population also lives in cities, and across the world, the citizens want to take part in solving the ecological challenges. For example, Citra's lifestyle test has been done by over 1 million times in Finland. And this is a very good figure for a country with only 5.5 million people. And this is also a very clear indication that people want to be engaged in the solutions. The majority of business activities are developed also in cities, and the businesses are the most important solution providers. So I would say that the cities have both the opportunity and the duty to lead our transition towards the carbon neutral circular economy. And this transition has to be made in a systemic way, and it must be made urgently. New types of mobility, energy, housing, and circular economy solutions developed in cities mitigate climate change, while also providing new business opportunities for the companies involved, and thus also creating new jobs. And the cities can play a major role also in reviving the biodiversity, bringing nature-based solutions like new green areas to cities, and adopting urban food production provides solutions for the nature loss and emphasizes the role of citizens as solution providers. These solutions do not only clean the air and protect us from heavy rain and flooding, but they can also help us to increase the well-being of people and improve our health. Sitra has been collaborating with City of Turku in the Circular Turku project, where the aim is to develop solutions that can be scaled up globally to comparable cities. The model that has been developed in Turku is important also more widely. The experiments and best practices must be made visible so that they can spread to have an exponential impact in solving the ecological challenges. And the best city solutions are also discussed in the World Circular Economy Forum Plus Climate that is organized by the Dutch government and Sitra later this week. WCEFs gather together the leading businesses and cities and policymakers across the world to share world's best circular economy solutions and to discuss how these can be scaled up. In WCEF Plus Climate, we will especially discuss about the role of the circular economy on climate change mitigation, which is a vital topic, especially before the decisive COP26 negotiations later this year. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I wish you a very rewarding event. Thank you.
Many thanks to Ms. Pansar for your inspirational words and your time. Indeed, as you said, cities can play a major role in tapping into circular economy solutions to create jobs and, of course, to protect biodiversity, which will be discussed this year intensely as the year of biodiversity. Well, as you said, we are also glad to be part of the World Circular Economy Forum Plus Climate, which is starting tomorrow. And we have a Circular Cities session at 4 p.m. that you can follow us further there. Well, yes, cities are engines of the global economy, as Ms. Pansar said. And all actors, the local government, but also the businesses in the city, the citizens, have the opportunity and the duty to do the shift from a linear to a circular one. Well, how to do this transition? It's not an easy task. It's a mammoth task. So let's look at our members, the local and regional governments, how they are getting on with this task. It's my great pleasure to welcome our inspirational leader, and well, so proud, newly elected ICLEI Vice President, Mayor Mina Arve from the city of Turku in Finland. She will share with us why they have embarked on the circular development journey, what actions they're taking, and how she likes to lead us for the transition to a circular economy in the network. Dear Mina Arve, the word is yours, please.
Hi, I am Mina Arve, Mayor of Turku and member of ICLEI Executive Committee. It's my pleasure to share our experiences from Turku. I hope to encourage everyone to work towards circular economy. Turku is Finland's oldest city, former capital and a global frontrunner for climate action. We are a city of universities and students. We create new solutions and promote green businesses. We are an energetic center of growth in Baltic Sea region. In 2029, Turku will be officially 800 years old and one of the first carbon neutral areas in the world. By now, we have already halved our emission from the level 1990. During the same time, our economy has grown, and last year we won the European Covenant of Mayors Climate Award as the best mid-sized climate city. Turku is one of the first cities that has included circular economy in city strategy and climate plan. Circular economy means sustainable growth and helps us to address indirect emissions. We are working with partners in our region to support a circular economy that reduces waste and pollutants and decreases demand for primary resources. We are decarbonizing the economy and boosting low-carbon innovations, businesses, and jobs. All these efforts are designed with rather than for residents, including all voices across the city in an equitable manner. In 2019, we launched the Circular Turku project in partnership with Sitra, ICLEI, and our regional partners. Our objective was to support climate neutrality and build on the existing good work on circular economy in the region. During the process, we have recognized many good circular practices and initiated new ones. Our city strategy includes the goals of resource wisdom, no emissions, no waste, and sustainable use of natural resources. Encouraged by the progress we made, we have started to draft a vision for Circular Turku. In our vision, Turku will be truly circular city by 2029. It will be the climate-positive city where resources consumption and waste production are minimized and biodiversity is nurtured. The local economy will be strong and in synergy with nature. Job opportunities will be well distributed among the population and contribute for a fairer and more inclusive city. From sharing resources to consuming locally, engaging in Circular Turku will be accessible, easy, and fun. Circular Turku is co-created with actors from different sectors. 25 concrete interventions have already been planned as part of our Circular Turku roadmap. Circular Turku is a unique endeavor building on 4 pillars: ambition, integration, inclusion, and collaboration. Ambition standing for achieving a systemic change by focusing on the transition of infrastructures, city operation and services, businesses, innovations, and lifestyles. Integration standing for showcasing how circularity supports climate action, biodiversity, and SDGs in practice. Inclusion standing for ensuring that the actions promote social equity, build on community initiatives, and create opportunities for all residents. And collaboration standing for prioritizing a bottom-up and multi-stakeholder approach to circular economy. Circular Turku is not an utopia. We are already well on the way to making it reality, and we are also engaging with other cities to join this transition. As a city, we have achieved emissions reductions of over 50% compared to 1990 levels. There are more than 700 circular economy actors in the Turku region, including 270 businesses. We are engaging more than 200 stakeholders to design the Circular Turku roadmap with concrete action steps to achieve circularity. We have launched the 1.5 degree Life campaign in partnership with Japanese cities to connect climate and circularity efforts to residents and support behavior change. We are supporting global advocacy on linking circularity and climate neutrality. We aim at presenting the Circular Turku roadmap in June 2021. The roadmap will build clear links with climate action, biodiversity protection, and social equity, and is foreseen to include 25 holistic interventions across the 5 sectors. These actions will promote circular economy both in the city and surrounding region. They will make use of the city's role as a planner, regulator, public buyer, enabler, and convener to ensure systemic change. Circular economy offers opportunities to build the sustainable societies of tomorrow with flourishing and vibrant communities. We want to invite cities to join us in creating a fair transition to a society in which we maintain the value of what we produce and operate in synergy with nature. As the mayor of Turku and ICLEI's global portfolio holder for circular development, I welcome the launch of ICLEI Circulars, the first global platform for circular cities, which gathers learnings and experiences from local governments worldwide. In the upcoming months, we will be organizing high-level dialogues with mayors interested in the circular economy and roundtables to facilitate exchange among city experts and practitioners. And finally, I want to invite fellow European cities to join the European Circular Cities Declaration, of which Turku is a proud founding signatory. The purpose of the declaration is to allow local and regional governments across Europe to communicate their commitment to support the circular transition, provide a shared vision of what a circular city is, underline the critical role which local and regional governments need to play in making this transition happen, establish a community of committed organizations to share their experiences, challenges, and successes. There are currently 45 signatories, and we are welcoming other interested European cities. Thank you very much, and welcome to ICLEI Circulars and Circular Cities.
Thank you very much, Mayor Arve, for your strong leadership for the ICLEI Global Circular Development activities globally, but also in Europe. In the circular development area, we also have Datuk Mayor Shadam bin Othman, the city of Hang Tuah Jaya in Malaysia, acting as an advisor for circular development pathway. Both Mayor Arve and Mayor Othman are very committed working with local and regional governments, our members around the world, to advance circularity, and they stand ready to support their peers on the challenges they face with implementation. So please remember to also post your questions on all the different activities that Mayor Arve has mentioned. We will be collecting and answering them later. So now from Europe, let's move to Africa. We go to an African city that has already recognized the benefits of circular economy actions for urban development. And in fact, they convened their peers back in 2018 for a roundtable discussion. We are very glad to support Accra for developing a new set of circular economy inspired actions. And it's my pleasure to give the word to Mayor Sova to tell us more. Please, Mayor, the word is yours.
I bring you warm greetings from the city of Accra. I'm delighted to join you today for the virtual launch of the ICLEI World Congress 2021-2022. As you may know, the recently launched ICLEI Circulars platform, which includes an Africa hub, features Accra as a leading city for good reason. There exists huge potential for circular development. The Accra Climate Action Plan identifies waste management as contributing about 44% of the greenhouse gas emissions. By adopting pragmatic and efficient waste management practices in accordance with best practices, the city of Accra stands to benefit from achieving carbon neutrality. Also, aquatic life will be preserved by ensuring that municipal solid waste is prevented from polluting and contaminating the ocean and other water bodies. Through waste processing along the waste value chain, the city sets the path to divert over 60% of municipal solid waste from the landfills, thereby creating green jobs through the informal economy to improve the living standards of our local residents within the communities in the metropolis. This goal we set to achieve by 2030. Accra has shown leadership very early and convened ICLEI members back in 2012 for the first time about circular economy actions in Africa with the ICLEI World Secretariat and ICLEI Africa. Accra was involved as a Circle Cities Council pilot city, identifying priority areas of interventions. The city of Accra is planning to implement the concept of separation of waste at source into 2 or more fractions, where industrial symbiosis will be employed to provide feedstock to the different industries based on their expertise and specializations to handle the source separated waste, which is estimated at over 3,000 metric tons per day in the Accra metropolitan area. Recently, food services, manufacturing, fishing, and agriculture have been identified as sectors of opportunity for circular economy interventions with support from ICLEI experts. The biggest challenge the city of Accra is confronted with is the non-availability of land for use as final disposal sites for metropolitan solid waste. This therefore requires that our waste is processed through intermediate treatment technologies such as anaerobic digestion, mechanized waste composting, material recovery facility, mechanical biological treatment plant, etc., due to the fact that such processes require very little footprints and can be sited within the jurisdiction of the metropolis to reduce turnaround times for transport. It would therefore be much appreciated if ICLEI and her partners could assist the city authority in the area of technology transfer through capacity building of technical staff to be abreast with such operations, and also to assist the city with some capital needed for operational expenditure and infrastructure required for some of these technologies on pilot basis in the short to medium term. Accra looks forward to an invitation from Mayor Mina Arve of Tuku, holding the Circular Development Portfolio, to participate in high-level peer-to-peer exchanges with other leading cities to share experiences, technical collaboration, study visits, and as many other opportunities that may become available. Wishing you all the very best as we prepare for the 2021-2022 Congress. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Mayor Soba. It was very interesting to hear the Accra priorities, like fishing as a core part of the economy, and of course waste management as a priority. We know that more than 40% of the carbon emissions coming from that area. And we also noted the challenge of technology transfer and your technical assistance needs. And obviously access to finance, which will be also discussed tomorrow, is a clear need. Noting all these for ICLEI's support to come in the next years. Well, now let's virtually travel to Maui. I don't know if you know where Maui is. It's an island in Central Pacific, actually part of the Hawaiian archipelago. And did you know that Maui has been practicing circular economy principles since 1995? It's a pleasure for me to really introduce Council Member King, Kelly Takaya King. She has been herself engaged with circular economy actions for many years, and recently they have taken it to the next level, so to say, through the Aina Aloha Economic Futures Initiative and transition to a circular economy. Well, please, I would like to remind you again, our dear audience, that Council Member King is now online with us, and she's going to be answering your questions. So please also post your questions in the chat box. And let's hear from Council Member King, how really circular economy been playing part in their economic development, and what is Aina Aloha? Thank you. The word is yours, Council Member King.
Aloha, I'm Kelly Takaya King. As a newest member of the ICLEI USA Board of Directors, I'm thrilled to be here to present at our World Congress 2021. And my work as a Maui County Council member and Vice President of Pacific Biodiesel Technologies has made me a longtime disciple of our subject, the circular economy, well before the concept had a name. The pandemic has turned this focus into an imperative as we all seek opportunities to pivot and focus on a more collaborative rather than extractive recovery from our economic woes. This photo here shows Hokulea, a voyaging canoe built and navigated using traditional Hawaiian methods. Led by Master Navigator Nainoa Thompson, the Hokulea travels the world to share the message of Malama Honua, which in Hawaiian translates to care for our island Earth. Before globalization, ancient communities naturally engaged in circular economics. The Ahupua'a is a native Hawaiian land management and economic system which divided islands into communities that included ridge to reef, from the mountains to the sea. And the image on the right, it shows the many historical divisions on Maui. The image on the left shows an artist's rendition of an Ahupua'a. If you look closely, you will see fishermen in canoes at the bottom, people involved in crafts at the shoreline, farmers in stream-fed taro patches and tending plants upslope, and even people at the highest point taking a dip in the river. People within an ahupua'a held kuleana, or responsibility, to each other to manage the area as a complete closed system, and they depended on each other to provide for all the needs of the community within the ahupua'a. When my husband Bob and I started Pacific Biodiesel, we recognized this important concept of connectedness. We sought to provide an innovative solution to the problem of waste and the need for renewable energy. And while the original emphasis was on recycling, we were actually creating a model for the circular economy that became a poster child for the community-based fuel production of biodiesel. While we first focused on technology transfer, building a dozen biodiesel processing facilities across the US, we came home to Hawaii to create our newest state-of-the-art biorefinery that is now a standard for sustainability, employing 80 to 100 people across the state, producing top quality fuel, and helping our state to reach its goal of 100% renewable utility energy by 2045. After 25 years in business, Pacific Biodiesel has grown from a company that converts waste oils to biodiesel into one that employs a closed loop, zero waste agriculture and energy model. Despite the deep environmental principles that guided Hawaii traditionally, our county government has often chosen unsustainable development pathways. For years, our visitor industry has exceeded tourism limits established in our Maui General Plan, leading to social, cultural, and ecological impacts. This top right photo taken on Maui during the pandemic was used in a recent call to action to protest the influx of visitors allowed to congregate within close proximity. As in places across the globe, plastic proliferation and litter has also impacted our shores. And years ago, underground injection wells were created on Maui to pump treated wastewater into the ocean rather than recycle it on land, causing the infamous Lahaina injection well lawsuit. The video shows the impact of the effluent seeping into what was once a pristine reef. In 2019, despite the vote of our council to withdraw our Supreme Court case and instead focus on solutions, the county administration refused to settle, and Maui ended up losing the case as the highest justices in the country upheld the Clean Water Act. Some of us call it a win, and we are now back to focusing on solutions and investing in infrastructure to allow more R1 recycled water use, supported by a state mandate for municipal water use requirements. The pandemic situation is a unique opportunity to rebuild our economy in a more resilient and inclusive way. Working with stakeholders across the state, Professor Kamana Beamer from the University of Hawaii has developed the Aina Aloha Economic Futures Initiative, which combines traditional Hawaiian values with the need to build a more resilient and sustainable economy. Resolutions were passed by the state legislature and the Maui County Council in support of the circular economy. Since then, Professor Beamer has published a policy playbook called Growing a Stronger Hawaii to turn the ideas into actions. Recent and ongoing actions at the local level make the biggest difference. It was my early experience as a community organizer, children's rights activist, and renewable energy innovator that drove my community to cajole me into running for county council. It was the need to bring visionary business sense to our county legislative branch that drew me in. Now in my third term on the council, we have become a mostly progressive body who understands and supports the interconnectedness and wise resource management history of our host culture. This year, things look good for our current county council to continue moving forward on these items, which promote circular development. Last week, our county council voted by resolution to accept an invitation into ICLEI's Circle City Scan pilot project. We look forward to collaborating on this effort, and as chair of the council's Climate Action, Resilience, and Environment Committee, I was pleased to hear our mayor announce in his budget proposal continued funding for his own climate office and a commitment to mitigation efforts. Moving forward, we're excited to work with ICLEI along the circular development pathway to meet waste reduction goals, honor our island's environmental traditions, and transition back into a more local, closed-loop economy which provides diverse and new career opportunities, including in the fields of agriculture, technology, and sustainability sciences. Mahalo nui loa. I'm here for questions after the session. Aloha.
Well, a big mahalo. Thank you so much, Councilmember King, for your presentation. We do appreciate the impressive adaptation of circular economy approach to local principles of Aina Aloha and your years of experience in working with biofuels and really working along the whole life cycle of this field. Well, we are looking forward to your answers to the questions that are already coming through the chat box. Thank you so much, dear audience, for your engagement. I'm also seeing questions to Mayor Arve Turku, which we'll take up later. So let's now go to Chinese Taipei. Kaohsiung is with us, and I would like to welcome Honorable Mayor Tao Shan Lo, who is actually also going to share with us several experiences in how they're recovering resources to the maximum extent in their own municipal operations. Let's hear from the distinguished Mayor Tao Shan Lo. Thank you.
早安、午安和晚安，各位参加2021年ICLEI世界大会迈向永续发展的城市代表们，大家好，我是台湾高雄市副市长罗达生。本人非常荣幸能和芬兰图尔库市长 Miss Mina Arve 共同担任本论坛受邀的城市代表，向世界分享高雄市发展循环经济的经验及未来展望。为追求全球永续发展，近年来世界各国积极推动环境保护相关工作，以落实环境永续理念。高雄市也不遑多让，除在市政面上朝宜居的永续绿色减碳城市迈进之外，高雄市也协助ICLEI东亚地区高雄环境永续发展能力训练办公室推广永续理念，为永续环境尽一份心力。高雄市在资源共生、循环经济上，已推动各项永续政策，包含工业区能源整合、温室气体管制、废弃物循环再利用及南区绿能示范场等多项措施。在工业区能源整合部分，目前高雄市共14家厂商加入区域能源整合，将区域能资源做最有效率的整合，达成提高能源使用效率、减少资源耗用、降低区域内污染排放及温室气体减量的目的。而温室气体管制部分，高雄市2019年净排碳量5000多万公吨，已较2005年基准年减少约15.5%，领先国家2020年减碳2%及2025年减碳10%目标。但高雄市并未因此止步，我们已成立绿电推动小组，并加入脱煤者联盟。高雄市辖内新达电厂将于2026年完成4座燃煤机组除役，预估可减碳量330万吨。除此之外，高雄市亦不断加强废弃物循环再利用。以底渣再利用为例，高雄市4座垃圾焚化厂年产生23到25万公吨焚化底渣。为提高焚化再生粒料使用量，导入控制性低强度回填材料，运用于公共工程，全面去化底渣，进而达成循环经济之目的。最后，在绿色能源面向上，高雄市已着手规划南区绿能示范场，配合新废弃物焚化处理总体政策。高雄市南区垃圾焚化厂将以促进民间参与公共建设方式，重建符合再生能源发电设备之新厂，预期将为高雄市带来更庞大的绿能效益。高雄市为一个永续发展潜力无穷的城市，除了上述几项永续环境的政策之外，仍有许多课政规划或实施的永续工作。目前，高雄市以联合国永续发展17项目标，提出各项环境保护目标及政策，从中检讨各项环境保护相关法规，以宜居绿色减碳城市为愿景，加强国际接轨，追求永续发展。疫情过后，希望有机会能在明年5月于瑞典举行的ICLEI马尔默峰会和大家交流。也希望各位有机会能来到台湾，看看高雄推动永续发展的现况，享受高雄的文化美景及高雄人的热情。谢谢。
谢谢。Mr. Tao Shan Lo, Deputy Mayor Kaohsiung City, thank you very much for your inputs. It was a quite interesting set of examples from the energy area, how circular economy mindset can be implemented. Now, our last stop will be the state of Pernambuco in Brazil. And newly appointed State Secretary of Economic Development, the ex-mayor of Recife, Mr. Geraldo Júlio de Meio Filho, will be joining us. Mr. Gerardo Julio is also part of the ICLEI leadership, and he's a member of the ICLEI South America Regional Executive Committee. So, Mr. Gerardo Julio, the floor is yours, please.
Eu quero cumprimentar todos que participam do Congresso Mundial do ICLEI. É um grande prazer estar participando desse momento rico de discussão sobre o futuro do nosso planeta. Eu queria trazer para cá, para esse momento de debate, a experiência nos 8 anos como prefeito do Recife, ligado à questão do enfrentamento às mudanças climáticas. Falar um pouco da economia circular, da regeneração urbana, da mobilidade sustentável. Tudo isso foi fruto de um grande planejamento que a gente fez na cidade, um planejamento que levou o nome de Recife 500 anos, que planeja a cidade até 2037. Foi uma retomada do planejamento de longo prazo. Alguns dos destaques desse planejamento, que dizem respeito a construir uma cidade mais sustentável e com economia mais verde, a gente pode fazer aqui para debate nesse momento. A regeneração urbana, por exemplo, a gente usou o projeto Parque Capibaribe, um rio que atravessa toda a cidade e que tinha tido as suas margens esquecidas. A cidade tinha virado as costas para esse rio. A gente começou um projeto de estudo, envolveu a universidade, mais de 50 especialistas das mais diversas áreas fazendo estudos sobre o rio, sobre sua margem, sobre a vida, sobre a fauna, sobre a flora desse rio. E a gente iniciou o processo de revitalização de todas essas margens, de convivência da cidade com o rio, inclusive com um dos espaços que fez um grande sucesso, que chama o Jardim do Baobá, uma nova praça na margem do rio, visitada por milhares de pessoas. Um grande projeto de regeneração. Quando esse projeto estiver totalmente implantado, a gente vai ter uma grande área verde cruzando toda a cidade. Dizer também sobre a mobilidade sustentável, um grande projeto que a gente fez de ampliação da mobilidade utilizando as bikes, as bicicletas. A gente tem hoje 800 bicicletas em 80 estações de aluguel que a gente tem espalhados pela cidade, e também a gente ampliou o número de ciclovias e ciclofaixas, as rotas cicláveis. A gente chegou a multiplicar por 6 a quantidade que existia na cidade. Eram 24 quilômetros, já levamos a 150, e agora nesse ano o novo prefeito já vem ampliando ainda mais esse número. Então, se espalhando por toda a cidade a oportunidade de andar de bicicleta com segurança, uma mobilidade sustentável, mobilidade muito ligada ao futuro. Essas atividades são atividades muito importantes. Dizer também, com relação à economia circular, um grande projeto que a gente tem, que é o upcycling, a gente tem o Recicla Mais, um projeto de utilização do plástico nas comunidades para a produção de pequenos utensílios, como lixeiras, fruteiras, utensílios de casa, utensílios domésticos, que despertam também a arte nessas pessoas. A gente tem 45 pontos na cidade, onde as pessoas podem levar esses recipientes plásticos que são transformados, e quem leva o recipiente plástico recebe um utensílio como esse em troca. E também isso traz até a geração de renda pela venda desses utensílios que podem ser feitos. Um projeto de grande sucesso também, uma máquina simples, barata, que gasta pouca energia, mas que tem feito a reciclagem em grande escala também em nossa cidade. Essas são algumas das ações importantes que a gente tem feito no Recife, foram feitas nesses últimos 8 anos, e que tem tudo a ver com a construção de uma cidade mais sustentável e com baixas emissões. Para isso também a gente fez o Plano de Ação Climática, isso fruto de um inventário de emissão de gases de efeito estufa, e depois do inventário a gente fez o plano, e o Recife já fez 2 verificações desse plano, inclusive com a redução efetiva demonstrada já nessas verificações, seguindo as rotas traçadas pelo plano. Um plano para redução das emissões de carbono, o que faz um compromisso ação na cidade. A gente tem a atuação permanente junto ao ICLEI, junto às COPs, a organismos internacionais. Você aponta todo o discurso, a decretação da emergência climática, mas você tem a ação concreta também. O Recife fez o inventário, fez o plano e iniciou as suas reduções. É com todo esse conjunto de ações que a gente encaminhou a cidade para um futuro muito mais sustentável.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gerardo Julio, obrigado for your comments and inputs. It is interesting to hear for the first time from all of the cities. We haven't seen that mentioning, but now you referenced also certain materials like plastics that have interesting opportunities, also with the engagement of the communities to keep materials back in the economy. You reference mobility, you reference the climate action plan, and adding further details into these planning towards especially the COP that we have this year in Glasgow. Thank you so much to all world cities and regions who have contributed to the session. I have been gathering some common needs that ICLEI can also respond to support you. And we understand the common need is sharing of experiences with the peers, technical assistance, and especially looking into cross-regional, perhaps, exchanges, which we would like to take up. Also with our partners. Let's look at one of our partners, Circle Economy. I would like to now welcome Martín López Corrazo, the CEO of Circle Economy, to share with us his thoughts on how organizations working in the field of circular economy are planning to join forces. Martín, the floor is yours.
Each year, our economy consumes 100 billion tons of materials, of which only a sad 8.6% is circled back. And that huge pile of waste represents lost value, energy, labor, and equals a toll on our natural world. In fact, it's a huge wasted potential. And even though global interest and understanding of the circular economy is growing, the linear machine is still outpacing us. Many of you are here today because you already understand the power of a circular economy. And a big thank you to ICLEI for the kind invitation to speak today. Circular economy provides a solution to some of the main challenges we face, especially on a city level. This includes reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, keeping our cities livable, and supporting local livelihoods. So what are the main challenges cities face when implementing circularity? Well, before I answer that question, let me introduce myself first. My name is Martín López Cardoso, and I'm the CEO of Circle Economy, an Amsterdam-based impact organization that helps cities, nations, and businesses implement and accelerate circularity. Our big ambition is to help double global circularity by 2030. So why double? In our annual Circularity Gap Report, we uncovered that 70% of all greenhouse gases are directly linked to extraction and handling of materials. And by doubling, we can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 39%. This will keep us within the limits agreed in Paris. And circular development is also pivotal in improving human health, well-being, protecting and enhancing biodiversity, and promoting social justice in line with the SDGs. But where do we start? The how remains the big question. So here's what we did. Together with ICLEI, we surveyed more than 30 cities around the world to answer exactly this. And here's what we found. The first challenge is the lack of awareness of successful policy options that can be implemented at a city level. The second is lack of access to funding. And the third is breaking the silos within the city, but also with the private sector. And to start addressing these challenges, we formed a coalition. It includes ICLEI, Circle Economy, EMF, Metabolic, and UNEP. And together, we're improving the existing Circle City Scan tool, or CST, a digital tool that will be available for free for everybody by the end of the year. And here's the goal of the tool. We want to teach and inspire cities about the possible circular interventions. We want to support cities to bring people together around the circular economy. And we want to recommend the best actions cities can take. The CST provides cities tailored knowledge and inspiration by combining the world's largest collection of circular economy case studies from our Knowledge Hub, which is a Wikipedia-style open source case library, with data on human materials and waste. We're now piloting the tool with 10 global cities around the world. With the tool, we aim to support the great initiatives that are already happening today. And as you've heard, cities around the world are making great first steps. We're seeing that firsthand of the city of Amsterdam, where we've been proud to support them on their journey. And we consider Amsterdam to be one of the leading circular cities around the world. And the vital first step they took has been putting the circular economy central in their vision for a future-proof city. And they set ambitious goals. 2025, 65% of all household waste must be separable for reuse. 2030, 50% less use of primary raw materials than present. And by 2050, they want to become fully circular. And throughout our collaboration with the city, it has been amazing to see all the inner energy by breaking down the silos and different departments working together, all through the lens of the circular economy. And now, with the support of ICLEI and our partners, we hope to further support all those cities around the world to implement their circular vision. But it's also good to stress that we all have a role to play to accelerate the circular economy. So if you're wondering, what can I do today? Let me give you a couple pointers. If you're a city representative, a great place to start is to explore our City Scan tool, or Circular Cities Action Framework we developed together with ICLEI. It will help guide you in taking the first steps, familiarizing yourself with the right language, and possible some interventions you may want to consider. If you just want to learn, go to the Knowledge Hub. It's a great place to start exploring with thousands of case studies from all around the world. And if you have been working on a very inspiring case, please upload it to the Knowledge Hub so other cities can be inspired by your examples. And if you're really unsure where to start, feel free to contact us. We're ready to help here at Circle Economy. Because only together we can double circularity and stay within the limits agreed in Paris. And we need to do that to create a world in which both people and planet can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martijn. Indeed, we are looking forward to strengthening our collaboration in the next months in order to support the ICLEI network. We are all committed also with Metabolic, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, our partners. As Martijn mentioned, we know that knowing those policy options, like I think Taguchi is asking in the chat box, is very important. Access to finance mentioned by Mayor Sova from Accra, they're important, and we will do everything in our means to support you on these challenges. So now I would like to share our ICLEI's global approach, which is quite freshly prepared with all our colleagues from our regional offices for the ICLEI Circular Development Pathway. Before I just start, I would like to say that we will be going a little bit over time with my presentation and then taking your questions and answering them with Mayor Arve and Council Member King. And please do keep your questions coming in. We will be getting back to you through email, through our ICLEI Circulars website. So I'm glad to have you on board, our audience. Well, we have just heard from our distinguished speakers that circular development brings great opportunities for achieving, firstly, climate neutrality by reducing resource extraction and waste, offering new sustainable sources of energy, like Chung City mentioned, and also we heard from Mauri, and protecting carbon sinks. Secondly, biodiversity preservation, as Citra mentioned, for example, by reducing emissions of pollutants and fostering regenerative food production and consumption. Well, thirdly, obvious, we are talking about the economy. So by helping to save materials and creating opportunities for local innovations, like we saw in Recife, and increasing local employment opportunities like we are experiencing in Bogor. And last but not least, resilience, which will be discussed tomorrow also at the World Conference. We can enable the switch to less complex, shorter local supply chains and see what kind of sustainable materials we can use locally. Well, indeed, in the foresight of all these benefits, we see growing interest, and you have also seen, among all ICLEI cities and regions and towns. So we can decouple urban economic and urban development from resource consumption, we believe. We should encourage equitable access, not only to some privileged, but also through those that are doing their best with informal actions. Also support new local economies for more productive and not so extractive ways of production and consumption, and wasting less, like we saw in Accra, 40% of the emissions embedded in the waste. And we should do this in an inclusive process, in collaboration, like Martijn said. We need to work with the residents, businesses. It's not only the job of the local government, but they are there to empower the others. So, well, in response to all this growing demand, we have recently launched the ICLEI Circulars platform, as we heard. We already have many members, and we invite the whole network to come in and join us to share their challenges with us so we can collectively work on them. The ICLEI Circulars platform is a catalyst. It gathers the latest knowledge on circular economy interventions. My colleagues are posting the link in the chat box. Go and visit it now. It provides materials for awareness raising. We have many materials that you can go and see. Of course, capacity building. We will be working with our partners like UNEP, offering capacity building sessions. And we like to also share all the personal inspiring stories, like that of council member King from Maui, how they're leading their regions and cities for circular economy shifts. We will also facilitate peer-to-peer exchange, like our leading member, Mayor Arve, is going to be convening all the cities to have high-level exchanges. And that's what ICLEI does well. So Martijn also asks how cities and regions can facilitate a transition from a linear to a circular economy, and in an integrated way in all urban systems, mobility, waste, housing, and also looking at materials like plastics in collaboration with citizens, businesses, and of course the research community, like Martina said, looking at the data, evidence-based. This is a complex process, it's perplexing. So how do we do that? The ICLEI Circulars, through our regional hubs, we are looking into consolidating this experience. We have already worked with Circular Economy, our partner, Metabolic, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, to put forward this framework, which tries to summarize and gives a guidance, a solid guidance on where actions can be taken. I would like to very briefly go through them. So rethink strategies. Leading circular cities through rethink strategies can redesign value chains, foster community links, exactly we heard from the city of Recife, and phasing out linear incentives, excuse me. This way, urban systems become adaptive and residents get reconnected to the local systems, not just depending on the global value chains. For example, in Ghent, they're actively supported the renewable energy cooperatives called ReScoop. And through collective ownership of homeowners' solar panels, everybody can access renewable energy efficiently. And even if you have little sunlight, you don't have any shortage of energy. So cooperatives, more inclusive approaches are important. Excuse me. Well, let's go to regenerative strategies. So leading cities through regenerative strategies ensure all infrastructure are nature-based and production and consumption systems are contributed to local resource and nutrient cycles. So they respect the ecosystem. For example, in Shenzhen, in China, they have used the abundant agricultural experimental station and incorporated sponge city principles. So it is a really strong nature-based solution that is supporting the ecosystem of the city. And well, the well-known reuse strategies. Reuse strategies extend the use of existing resources by sharing, by reuse of the existing infrastructure. For example, in Brisbane, they run regular reuse and upcycling workshops. We also heard about repair cafes, demonstrating that citizens can learn to repair and manufacture. So the city is very much encouraging the citizens here. And reduce strategies. Well, reduce how? Efficiency. So we can design infrastructures, processes, and products to minimize material and energy consumption, and of course, waste generation. So for example, in Jaipur in India, which is a hub of textile production, the Integrated Texcraft Park Private Limited is looking into how water recycling, rainwater harvesting, and energy conservation can be done in an efficient manner. Industrial symbiosis examples that we are also hearing are very much about these strategies. And recover, well, the most well-known, of course, the strategies like recycling, closing the loop, but a little bit at the end of life. So Kelamine in Mozambique is doing that in 11 markets, in their food markets. And Kelamine Limpa project is looking at the collection of waste, and they take it to the composting facility and distribute for the neighboring gardens. So an excellent example of recovery. Well, for developing and putting all these strategies in place, ICLEI Circulars is there. So we are very happy to showcase all the 20 initiatives that are already doing this support, but there will be more to come. So on the one hand, ICLEI strives to put circular economic practices in the urban development agenda, and on the other hand, ICLEI is actively seeking opportunities to incorporate those issues into the global sustainability agenda. As an advocacy element, I can share with you proudly that we have brought the waste and consumption agenda, the circularity agenda, into the Human Settlements Climate Action Pathway. And if you like to be part of this work and set all the actions towards Glasgow COP26, please contact us and we will be making you part of the process. And what else? We are looking, of course, into assessments. Like Martijn said, we are looking into where we can prioritize actions, how we can really find the right starting point. So like the ICLEI Circular City Scan tool, we are working right now with 10 pilot cities, and more cities are to come, like Maui, in order to really find the right intervention areas for their circular journey. Then planning. Planning is important because it sets the roadmap and the pathway for circularity. And here I like to give the example of the work with Alliance to End Plastic Waste. In partnership with ICLEI offices in South Asia and Southeast Asia, we are looking into plastic waste management strategy and pilot project developments in 2 Indian cities, and more are to come. Then implementation. We know the plan, how to go for implementation, and we are very happy to provide very concrete practical tools, such as the recently launched Practitioner's Handbook for the Urban Food Systems, how to go circular in 3 easy steps. Well, easy, but of course complex stakeholder engagement. We are giving 50 examples that are already doing this transition, and in alignment with the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact's recommended actions. Watch that space, because we will have more practitioners' handbooks for housing, construction, and many more priority areas. And of course, the scale. This is what is important for ICLEI, as Martijn also called for scale. We like to work with more than 2,500 members we are having, not only with maybe 30, 40 that are already interested to onboard. And we like to set up peer-to-peer exchange mechanisms. This is what we are going to put all our energy into, so that everybody can learn from each other. And we have already facilitated these exchanges among the peer cities. For example, the Urban Transitions Alliance in the industrial legacy cities is exactly doing that. And you can visit the website to see some of the past exchanges and learn from those. Well, what's next? So very briefly, as Mayor Arve mentioned, we will be convening high-level talks, thanks to her leadership, in the coming months, in order to look into roadmap development, action planning. Some of your questions that you're asking also will be covered there, and how to really work with complex stakeholder engagement processes. We will also have more deep dive regional dialogues with technical staff, so that we can, in 5 world regions, understand those priorities better and develop the tools to address them better. And watch the ICLEI Circular space. We will have more regional hubs coming: South Asia, the USA, and South America. Finally, this is a super year of COPs, so we will be linking, definitely, as we just heard, circular development as a pathway for climate neutrality, for biodiversity protection. we will be at the COP26, really showcasing exactly how those links are done, and also the biodiversity COP15 in Kunming. So if you like to continue engaging with the circular economy agenda, I would like to mention briefly that join us tomorrow also at the World Circular Economy Forum Plus Climate event with ERB and our member ICLEI Rexcom from Europe, Vice Mayor Bonte from Rotterdam. We will be discussing actually what has been mentioned also, inclusive circular economy, so just transition and access to finance issues. So join us. Well, many thanks for your attention, and visit ICLEI Circulars, circulars.iclei.org, and share with us also your resources so we can really scale this work up, bring the potential of circular economy. So now I think coming towards the end of our session, I would like to address a few questions that we have heard. I think we have also Mayor Arve and Councilmember King now live online with us, and I would like to address some of the questions that our participants have been asking. If I can ask perhaps for Councilmember King here. There is one question actually coming from my colleague. I would like to see the questions in detail. I think one coming from Desire, is it possible to make tourism circular? And how do you see the international tourism developing in the context of the circular economy activities? We also have another question coming from colleagues that they find the elements of traditional elements in the circular economy thinking very interesting, and they are seeking your advice to help them build a social momentum for adapting circular economy approaches through such links. So a more people-centered approach to circular economy. Perhaps Councilmember King, please reflect on these questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Bershu. They both could be long conversations, so I'll try to make my responses brief because I know we've gone over the session, but it's been a wonderful session. So thank you for having me. Thank you again for having me as part of this. I love those questions. And the first thing I want to say about tourism is that this pandemic has really boosted our ability to get the political will to pivot from looking at quantity, and we're going back to what we've developed, what we call a Pono pledge for tourists. So we're going to be focusing more now on less quantity for tourism, because we really do have more tourists per residence than we have allowed for in our general plan. We've really oversubscribed. So we call it over tourism. And where we're focusing now is on a higher quality tourist. That doesn't necessarily mean more money. That means people who respect our land, respect the Aina, people who participate in ecotourism and agrotourism. And those are opportunities to learn and educate, and also for tourists to contribute to our community with agricultural projects, farming projects they can be part of, and environmental protection projects they can actually be part of. And so we're pivoting in that way, where I think we're going to be reducing. I actually have a proposal that I'll be taking up after we get done with the budget to put a moratorium on building more hotels and expanding visitor accommodations until we get a handle on our level of tourism. I think tourism will always be a part of our economy, but I'm hoping it's going to be a much smaller as we open up into a circular economy and we diversify our opportunities within our island. Training is going to be a big part of that. And so for the second question, I love this question. I love both of these questions, but so I really want to emphasize the importance of communication and discussing. And I've got a lot of personal experience because we've built 12 biodiesel refineries or biodiesel processing plants across the US, never had a single protest. And I've had a lot of our local mayors and our local public officials ask me why we never have protests when we do this kind of activity, because almost everything, even solar farms and windmill projects, get protests in Hawaii. But my biggest advice to you is to go into a community and first listen. And I think that's where developers of renewable energy projects make a big mistake. Is the attitude is usually to go into a community and try to figure out how they can make people understand how great their project is. And rather than to go in with the first intent of listening to what the concerns are and what the needs of the community are. So every place we've gone in to build a biodiesel processing plant or refinery, we've been invited by the people of the community. We've been asked to come there and develop this. And then we usually work with a local entity and build it for a local operator. So all sides need to come together. I've seen this happen also in the field of affordable housing on Maui, where for decades we had no affordable housing, and certainly not for the lowest end. But when I came onto the council, I started forcing developers to go into the community, talk to community associations, talk to neighbors, really sit down, listen to what the concerns were. And then they were able to make changes in their projects that made the project acceptable. And it probably saved years, because it takes years when you get a protest or lawsuits against your project to get something completed. And when you have the whole community behind you coming to the council saying, we support this project. In the last 2 years, we've now got 5 more projects in my area, in my district, and they're for the very lowest end. They're for the 60% of the median income and lower, which we've never had before. We've never had projects that address that level of income. So, just coming together, listening to concerns, developing projects, sustainability projects with the community, not for the community. I think that's the biggest mistake, and that's where you get the most pushback. But you gotta identify what the needs are and what your mutual goals are, and work from there.
Thank you so much, Councilmember King. We take your advice into account, and we thank you so much for being so late with us. I think we have 12 hours of difference, and it's
Yes, we do.
10:17 p.m., not a.m. like in Europe. Thank you again.
All right, thank you. And I'm very honored to be on with Mayor Arve too, because, you are somewhat of a legend. So, I've been reading your information. But I will, do you want me to sign off now?
Yes, I think we will be just closing after giving the word to Mina Arve. Thank you so much.
Okay, mahalo nui loa.
Mahalo, a big mahalo. Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch, indeed. And to you, dear Mayor Mina Arve, our Vice President, I would like to just address also, thank you for your time, for joining us. One question, there are so many questions coming to Turku, and I think we will be sharing in the next days to come, the outcomes of the session, or so our slides they're asking. But one question is, what were the major challenges, maybe 1 or 2 challenges you can share with us? And how does this link to climate change mitigation, especially given COP26 in front of us? Because yes, they're asking how it really relates to circular development. Maybe you can emphasize again. Dear Mayor Arve, the word to you.
Well, thank you very much, Bosu, and thank you for Councillor King, your kind words, and my appreciation that you're joining us at that time of the evening that you're having. It's a huge time difference. Yeah, in Turku it's morning or nearly noon. So regards from Turku, everyone. And I'm so proud to be present in this session. It's very interesting to be listening you other perspectives also to this quite wide area what we are talking about when we're talking about the circular economy and circularity, and it's still maybe one of those terms which is maybe not so clear for everyone, and maybe that is one of the challenges while we are discussing about the different terms, what should be done and what are our aims and how we should proceed, and that's one of my targets as well as nationally, but also now internationally, to clarify and giving the examples what all it can be and make it more recognized as a term and of course as an action plan, what should be done and what could be done, especially in the cities while we are growing, and how can we do this growth like in a sustainable way. But one thing what's actually very important in my perspective is that it's not only about circular economy or different or how to say separately about climate actions, but the circular economy is a way to decarbonize the economy and create a sustainable new solutions and businesses, and also care about biodiversity and lowering the pressure for using the natural resources. So this is it's kind of everything is related to everything. And nowadays it's we have very much complex problems, and solutions are also quite complex and interconnected with everyone and everything. But you keep your how to say, we have in Finland, we have this saying that keep your eyes on the ball. So kind of trying to concretely focus on what I'm doing and having the strength from the academia, the science, what to do and what should be done, then collecting everyone together to work together. It's not only about the cities and city networks, but it's also about businesses, academia, and of course our residents, who are very important to make this all together. But how to concretely conclude maybe here that I believe strongly in collaboration, and that's the main how to say most important thing to finding solutions to these complex issues. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Mayor Arve, also again for your time. And you summed up very well. We have bigger than self issues, complex, what we are seeing also with the pandemic, very difficult links, and collaboration is the key. So we need to work through businesses, communities, residents, and of course our own municipal operations. Thank you so much. So I think with these words, we are quite a bit over time, and like to thank all the audience for their interactive way of engaging with us. We will be answering those questions also through email. We have your contacts, so we will be emailing, and also on the ICLEI Circulars. You can find the answers to your questions, also my presentation on the ICLEI Circulars website. And with this, I think I would just like to say, if you missed today's session, part of it, or yesterday's session, you can always watch them on our YouTube channel. And this afternoon, there is more to come. We have nature-based development session. So please look at worldcongress.iclei.org. And well, this is just the beginning. Through the rest of 2021, we will be exploring critical topics in sustainable urban development area, and hope to see you all in Malmö, Sweden. And that will be, I think, all from me. Just thanking so much for the valuable contributions of our distinguished speakers and partners. And finally, thanks all to my ICLEI Circular Development team at the World Secretariat for their ongoing and hard work, and also to our regional offices, our colleagues there who have made this session happen. Looking forward to our collaboration and making circularity the norm, the usual thing to do for climate change mitigation, biodiversity, and more people-based livable cities in the future. See you in Malmö, vi ses.